This is Dr. G. Maruti Prasad Yadav. This session is all about design of connecting rod. Let's start this session. So connecting rod is one of the major part in IC engine which connects both the piston at one end and crank at the other end. Means it acts as an intermediate member to transmit the reciprocating motion of piston to the rotary motion of the crank. So before getting into design part, so let's have a look at the structure of connecting rod, then we will take the design part. So if you look at this diagram, this is how it looks like. So this end it is called as a small end, which it is connected to the piston. The other end is called as a big end, and where it is connected to the crank. And this remaining middle portion, the rod portion, is called as shank. So here, as a part of design of connecting rod, we have to find out the safe cross-section dimensions of shank portion. The other side, we have to find out the length and diameter of both piston pin to hold the small end of connecting rod to the piston, and length and diameter of crank pin, which is used to connect the big end of connecting rod to the crank. So we have to find out the length and diameter of crank pin and piston pin. And third one is we have to find out the diameter of bolts used to secure the big end cap to the shank portion. Means this big end is split part. So this part is called as a cap. So this cap is hold to the or secured to this shank portion through bolts and nuts. Here and here, 2 bolts and nuts are used generally to hold these 2 split parts of big end. So how much diameter of that bolt should be so that it can withstand without failure? That we have to find out. And finally, fourth one is we have to find the big end cap thickness. This is the thickness of big end cap that we have to find out. So before designing, first we have to identify the type of load acting on the connecting rod. As we all know that when piston is reciprocating, the connecting rod is tilting like this. So this is how the connecting rod moves during the reciprocating motion of piston. So what is the load acting on the connecting rod? Yes, the load which is acting on the piston, the same load is taken up by the connecting rod. So connecting rod shank portion we have to design based on the load whatever is acting on the piston. So the same load we consider on the connecting rod. So considering for maximum load condition, we have to find. We all know that the load acting on the piston is the maximum gas force or gas load developed in the chamber because of combustion of air fuel mixture. So that we know. So that acts actually during the expansion stroke of piston. So during the expansion stroke of piston, the piston moves from TDC to BDC in downward direction like this. When it is moving downward direction like this, the load acting on the connecting rod is in this direction. So finally, whereas this end of connecting rod is connected to crank, this end is connected to piston, load is acting here, whereas fixed at both ends. The connecting rod is fixed at both ends. This end it is secured to piston, this end it is secured to crank. So load is acting like this. So that load is nothing but compressive load. When it is not a pulling load, it's a pushing load on the connecting rod along its axial direction. Therefore that load is compressive load. But it doesn't lead to pure compression in connecting rod. What is happening because of that compressive load? What kind of failure is taking place in the connecting rod because of that compressive load developed during the combustion process? Say, let us assume this is the connecting rod. Let us consider this is the connecting rod. Maybe this end is small end, this end is big end, where this big end is connected to crank and this end is connected to piston. As I said, load is acting in this direction. So pushing force. What happens here? Let us see. See, I am applying load like this. Means I am applying from this side downward, from this side I have just fixed it. If I apply load like this, actually what is happening here? This component results in bending. Whereas I applied compressive load, but it leads to bending. It doesn't lead to pure compression. Why? Because it mainly depends upon its cross section dimensions compared to its length. Means it depends upon length to cross section size. So when the cross section is very less when compared to its length, means the ratio of length to cross section dimension is very high, then at that time it results in bending even because of compressive load, and this type of failure is called as a buckling failure, and that's why that load is called as a buckling load. Now is it clear or not? So finally connecting rod is under action of compressive load, but it not leads to pure compression, it leads to buckling. So that's why we have to design this connecting rod based on buckling load, So once again one more question is there. There are two possibilities of buckling here. See here, just now I have shown like this. When load is acting like this, when load is developed on this connecting rod, this shank portion of connecting rod may buckle in this direction. Means it may bend in this direction or it may bend in this direction. Means this is the bending in the plane of the board or in the plane of motion of connecting rod. If it bends like this, it is nothing but buckling in the plane of motion of connecting rod, whereas when it bends like this in the transverse direction, it's in a plane perpendicular to the plane of motion of connecting rod. So two possibilities are there. So let us see in which direction it may buckle. So you see here, again I have drawn a rough outline diagram of the connecting rod. This end is small end, this end is big end. So this is a shank cross section AA. So cross section AA is represented here, which is I-shape cross section. So now, as I said, when load develops like this, then it may buckle like this. Means this shank portion, this is the connecting rod, it bend like this. When load is developed here in this direction, there is a possibility that it may buckle like this. So it may buckle about x-axis. So this is x-axis. When it buckle in this direction, it is nothing but a buckling about x-axis. There is a one more possibility, that is buckling about y-axis. If this is a connecting rod, when buckling load acts on this one, compressive load acts on this one, instead of bending in this direction, in the plane of this board, nothing but in the plane of motion of connecting rod, it may bend like this. You may not see it actually, it is like this, bending like this. So buckling in this direction. So that is considered as buckling about y-axis. So there are two possibilities. One is the buckle may take along x-axis or buckle may occur along y-axis. That we have to find out. Why? Because while designing the connecting rod, we have to find out the safe cross-section dimension of the shank portion to avoid buckling, either buckling about x-axis or buckling about y-axis. Nothing should happen. So in order to avoid buckling about both, first we have to identify what is the which one is the higher possibility of buckling, either along x-axis or along y-axis. That we have to find out. Start. So the page number 16.4, equation number 16.4, where buckling load formula is given. So critical buckling load is equals to sigma c into capital A divided by 1 plus small a into capital L by k whole square greater than or equal to FD. FD is the design load that we will discuss later. So let's have a look at this one, where sigma c is the allowable compressive stress, whereas A is the cross section area of the shank portion of connecting rod, and whereas the small a is a constant, that value I will give you now, and capital L is the equivalent length of column. So let us see what is that equivalent length of column, and K is the radius of gyration. Radius of gyration. So according to Rankine, so based on the end conditions, end connections, the equivalent length changes. Now I will tell you how it varies. When it buckles in this direction, this end they are free to rotate. So this is the, for example, big end. It can, when it bends like this, it can rotate like this. So it is not completely constrained on either side. So that's why when it is considered to be buckling about x-axis in this direction, then the two ends are considered to be hinged ends. Then capital L equals to small l itself. And when buckling about y-axis means bending in this direction, perpendicular to this board, then the both ends are considered to be fixed ends because they are completely constrained there. Then equivalent length is given equal to half of the length of connecting rod. So this also given in the data book itself, page number 16.8, table number 16.1. So this one is given in the data book itself, table number 16.1, page number 16.8, it is given. So substituting the same, we can get the formulas like this. So F suffix CRX, buckling load about x axis, equals to sigma C into capital A divided by 1 plus small a into the capital L equivalent length is equals to the actual length itself. That's why, because the two ends are considered to be hinge ends, small l by k xx, that is the radius of gyration about x axis whole square. The same when we apply for buckling about y axis, buckling load about y axis FCR suffix y equals to sigma C into capital A divided by 1 plus small a, there is a Rankine's constant small a, that value also it is there in the same table 16.8 page number, table number 16.1, the A is there for different materials. Whereas when we take buckling about y axis, capital L is equal to small l by 2, that's why small l by 2 into KYY, radius of gyration about y axis whole square. Okay, let us start with an assumption. If the connecting rod is equally strong in buckling about x axis and y axis also, then how it is possible? These two are equal. So by equating these two, we can get the equally strong about x and y axis. So let us equate. So equating these two equations, so finally what we get? We all know that moment of inertia I equals to a k square, area into radius of gyration square. So k square is equal to I by a. Therefore, for kx square is equal to ixx by a, kyy square is equal to iyy by a. So therefore, finally, so if this condition satisfies, means if moment of inertia about x axis is equals to 4 times of moment of inertia y axis, then that particular part or rod is equally strong in buckling about x axis and also about y axis. But if ixx is less than 4 times of iyy, then buckling takes about x axis. And if ixx is greater than 4 times of iyy, then buckling takes about y axis. So when you want to design the cross section dimension of shank portion, first we have to find out its moment of inertia about x-axis and y-axis. Then we have to look at this condition, whichever is satisfying. But in actual existing engines, all the engines, actually they are maintaining the Ixx value in the range of 3 to 3.5 times of Iyy. So this is the value actually they are maintaining in the existing all the engines. So therefore always Ixx is less than 4 times of Iyy. So therefore we have to carry the design of the connecting rod shank portion based on buckling load about x-axis. No need to consider buckling about y-axis. So first we have to confirm that the chosen cross section of shank portion should have a respective dimensional proportions which has to satisfy the condition that Ixx should be less than 4 times of Iyy, especially in the range of 3 to 3.5 times of Iyy. So we no need to take our own dimensional proportions, already it is given in the data book. Only we have to verify it whether the given cross section can satisfy that condition Ixx less than 4 Iyy or not. Once we confirm it, then we can proceed to design part taking the buckling load about x-axis. Okay, have a look at this diagram. This cross section diagram already is given in the data book, page number 16.8. It is given there. The I-shaped cross section, as we already discussed that, which is well preferable to carry the bending load. So the cross section is given like this, having I-shape with a web width of 40, complete height of 5t, the web thickness is t, and here it is t, this flange thickness is t. So this is what it is given. Now with the given dimensional proportion, whether it is satisfying the condition or not, now we have to verify. So first we have to find out the moment of inertia about x-axis and moment of inertia about y-axis. Then we can confirm whether Ixx is less than 4 times of Iyy or not. Okay, let us start with Ixx, moment of inertia about x-axis. So we have to take centroidal x-axis, centroidal y-axis. This I section is symmetrical about vertical axis, symmetrical about horizontal axis. Obviously its CG lies at its center. This is the CG of this I-shaped cross section because it is symmetrical about this axis as well as this axis. Therefore this is x-axis is the symmetrical x-axis, this is symmetrical y-axis because it is passing through exactly the CG. So centroidal axis x-axis, centroidal y-axis. Now we have to find out the moment of inertia of this I-shaped cross section about x-axis and moment of inertia of entire I section about y-axis. Let us start with about x-axis. Ixx equals to, so let me take here first of all, let me take it as two parts, two areas. One is this 4t into 5t. This has one rectangle, 4t width, 5t, again 4t, again 5t. So this I take it as one area. In this total area, I will remove this whole part, this part. Why? Because see here, this is in middle it is t, therefore this is 1.5t. This is total 4t, in which if you minus t, this is 1.5t, this is 1.5t. So I will take this as one area. In this one I will remove this 1.5t into 3t. This is total 5t, in which top we have t, bottom wedge is also t, in between it is 3t. So therefore I will take this 4t into 5t. This is one rectangle in which I'll remove this whole. So this is 1.5t into 3t, 1.5t, 3t. This is one, and again 1.5t, 3t, 1.5t. So now we have to find out moment of inertia of this entire rectangle area 1 about this x-axis minus moment of inertia of this whole about the x-axis minus moment of inertia of this whole about x-axis. If you observe carefully, this x-axis central axis for the total area of rectangle 4t into 5t, and also it is the central axis for this 1.5t into 3t rectangle also. Okay, so that's why we all know that about horizontal axis the moment of inertia of rectangle is horizontal central axis, it is bdq by 12. Horizontal central y axis or central vertical axis, it is dbq by 12. When width is b, height is d or depth is d, then bdq about horizontal central axis, about vertical central axis is dbq by 12. So that is a standard formula, we all know that. So that derivation part we can refer any other videos, or else I will prepare those videos also in the next coming session. Okay, coming back to this, this is horizontal axis, so b, this is depth, b is 4t, depth is 5t, so therefore 4t into 5t cube by 12 minus this area and also minus this area, so both are same area, so same position, same axis, I can take 2 times. So 2 times of this is width is 1.5t, height is 3t, so 1.5t into 3t cube by 12. Therefore 419 t power 4. 419 by 12 into t power 4. That is the moment of inertia about x axis. Now let us take moment of inertia about y axis. So when coming to moment of inertia about y axis, we should take 3 areas, that is top rectangle as one area, this vertical part as another area, flange portion, again this web as third area. We shouldn't take, as we have considered in case of moment of inertia about x axis, like total area minus this whole. Why? Because I will tell you, if you take this rectangle, this top flange, its centroid is at its center, so obviously its vertical central axis is passing through about y axis. If you take the second area, its CG is here, it is also passing the same axis, and even if you take third area, its CG is also here, passing through same axis. So directly we can add. Instead of that, if you take in the same pattern whatever we considered for moment of inertia about x axis, likewise total area minus this area, if you take it like this, then whereas CG is here for this whole, for this removed part, CG is here, so its center axis is here, which is not passing through y axis. So that's why again we have to apply the parallax theorem. So it becomes somehow lengthy, even though answer is same. Finally in the end answer will be the same, but procedure becomes somehow lengthy. So to make it simple, I am taking as area 1, area 2, area 3. So likewise you can finish it easily. Have a look at it. If you take this area, the top web area, t into 4t, so db cube by 12 means depth is t into width is 4t, so t into 4t cube by 12 plus this flange portion which is height of 3t, width of t, so again depth d into b cube. Okay, so 3t into t, into t cube by 12 plus again the bottom web again same t into 4t cube (131 t power 4 by 12). So now we got Ixx value, Iyy value. So therefore from which Ixx by Iyy equals to this one by this one. So therefore everything will get cancelled. Finally 419 by 131. So it becomes 3.19. So approximately 3.2. So finally Ixx so this is the final value. Moment of inertia about x-axis is 3.2 times of moment of inertia about y-axis. What we required is moment of inertia about x-axis Ixx should be 3 to 3.5 times of Iyy. So now condition is satisfied. So it is confirmed that given dimension, proportion, whatever it is there in the data book, page number 16.8, it satisfies our condition, so that finally buckling takes about x-axis. So finally we have to start the design of connecting rod based on buckling about x-axis.